Hey everyone, today I want to talk about toxic hopelessness. You've probably heard of toxic positivity. If you haven't, it's where people are positive in a way that is toxic. That can an example is like victim blaming, where if you have like a really positive outlook, things can't be that bad, and so it must be the fault of the victim. Toxic positivity also doesn't leave room for like the very real situations where there's nothing to be positive about. Because I think like those darker emotions definitely like have a time and a place. On the other side of toxic positivity, you have toxic hopelessness. Hopelessness is being expressed in a situation that is not hopeless. What would be the main motivator for that? I think a lot of times it's lack of effort. It's people who are lazy. I'll give you a few examples. So if you're in poverty, you're going to need support. And so most people, anyway, or the average person is going to need support. And so if you kind of like create a path for yourself and create a plan for yourself, like this is what I'm going to do to get out of my situation. And again, you've probably heard people say like, anyone can, if they just work hard enough, they'll make it. So you've laid out a plan for yourself, and, there's points in your plan that you're going to involve other people, right? This is going to be approval from a landlord, or approval from, a job application approval, or like a variety of other opportunities, like education, or there's literally so many things. So toxic hopelessness comes in where you've laid out a plan for yourself, and you show up to these people who say that you can do it, and you're like, hey, I found a way to do it. And I need you to approve this, help me with this. And they say, that's not going to work. Why? Because it would take effort on their part. And they don't want to, they're lazy. And instead of saying, I don't want to do this because I'm lazy, or I don't want to approve this because I don't want to be around you because I'm a classist person, and I hate poor people. Instead of that, they're going to say, it's not going to work out. That won't work. It just can't be done. And again, like, some of these things are not like, they're not really intensive things. It's just, a normal thing that they would help someone else with, right? But they won't help you because classism. And next example, disability. So if you're disabled, and at this point, like, especially if it's a disability that's not fun, you're gonna know your body, because you're gonna research and experiment on yourself to just get out of the fucking shit that your disability is. And so, within this experimenting on yourself and research on your conditions, you're going to say, hey, this is something, I've discovered a treatment option that looks really awesome, and I think it could help me. It could improve my quality of my life. It could reduce my symptoms. And maybe it could even completely resolve this. And then people who are supposed to be supportive, either doctors or your family, they're going to be like, no, it's not going to work. You're not going to get better. We're not going to do that because you're never going to get better. There's nothing that can be done. And why? Why do they say this? It's literally just effort. It is just a teensy bit of an effort that would greatly, on their part, that would just exponentially improve your quality of life. And they're lazy. They're lazy. And so they're not going to do it. And instead of saying, I'm lazy, I don't care about your pain, they're going to say, it's hopeless. It's hopeless. Nothing can be done. Okay, my third example, climate change. Okay, climate change is here. 2023 was the year for climate change. Like, climate change is here. Like, natural disasters happening everywhere. Bunch of just fucked environmental shit happening everywhere. And what are people saying? Nothing can be done. The doomerism of we're all fucked and it's never gonna get better. And a lot of things right now, right? They're like, even if we do everything right, there's some things that, like, it's just the reality of climate change. Like, it's like, it's here, and it's going to take a lot to fix. But the worst stuff of, like, all the, emissions and all that other stuff, that's, like, happening now and in the future, that's going to make it worse because we're, like, adding, right? We're adding all this heat. Like, that's something that, like, we can fix, that we can take action to reduce those things. But it doesn't matter. It's hopeless. And so, because we're so fucked that things are never going to get better, it doesn't matter if we just reduce emissions. It doesn't matter if we engage in activism to help end this, or, political action. Nothing matters because we're fucked. We're doomed. Except we're not. Like, there's so many things that we can do to address climate change. And no, it's not going to be perfect, but it can be done. It can, like, reduce, right? But that takes effort. And so it takes effort, and it takes challenging things that, challenging systems that people don't want to challenge. And it takes effort. It takes lifestyle changes. And people don't want to do that. So that's toxic hopelessness. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah. Hi. Today I want to talk about forced emotional labor. A lot of times when we think about forced labor, we think about physical labor, work, slavery. Emotional labor, which is doing that, like, mental work to emotionally understand something, emotions that you're feeling as the result of something, and working through those feelings, that can be forced. I'll give you a few examples. So not everyone knows or understands city planning, but, like, city planning, among people who know about solutions, people know that city planning is, like, the number one thing for everything. Climate change, crime, mental illness, communities, like, so many things come down to city planning. And so, like, what would that look like? Like, if you're in a suburb area, like, literally, like, taking down your fences, developing public transportation and using that. Now, why can't we do that? Because if, like, hypothetically, all the politicians were on board with, like, completely changing city planning, who would be against it? It would be the individuals, the people. We see it all the time where NIMBYs who are like, no affordable housing in my neighborhood. And the reason people would be against it is because, like, things would change, right? They would have to give up their cars to use public transportation. They would be interacting with their neighbors, talking to people. So space that they used to, like, have ownership over is now public. And I think for anything like that, it'd be very important to, like, have, like, have people's personal property be for themselves, so they're like, there would still be a fence, but, like, you're giving up, like, a portion of what you own. Right. Since you still have a yard, it's just not as big, and then everyone else, including you, gets to like enjoy public space. And yeah, so people don't want to do that because that would be a big change, right? It would, in the beginning, it like for a lot of people, it would be stressful, because change for a lot of people is a stressful thing. Um, so like I will say like corporations have like a really big role in this. So like the reason we don't have public transportation is because of cars, because the people who car manufacturers needed to make money, and that's why they changed our city planning to be have space for cars, which took up all our public space. And it even like shapes our housing and how we live. Um, so yeah, the problem starts with the corporations, but the change and the solution is going to take stuff from other people, and so yeah. So anyway, so people don't want to change it, right? Because it's stressful. Um, and so the forced emotional labor happens um, when you have people in other countries whose communities are being in neighborhoods. They're not being changed; they're being completely destroyed. Their families are dying because of climate change. The emotional labor that it would have taken to just change the city planning is now being forced on people in other parts of the world. Um, I don't know, like the really heartbreaking thing is like right now, all our issues with cults and like Yahtzees, uh, you know, coming to power in the U.S. That's gonna have global impacts. And we know that people in strong communities don't they don't they they don't turn into that. Not wanting to change the city planning. Um, this is going to have global. This is not just climate change. It's going to have massive global impacts on so many different countries and their politics and yeah. Anyway, um, the next example is discrimination, where if, let's say, someone is, someone from a minority group is accused of being lazy or not trying, um, the emotional labor would be this person is not lazy. It's not that they're not trying. It's that they're they're not being included. There are barriers being placed in front of them. They are going through a lot more. They are being discriminated against. It's not that they're lazy, it's that they're not even given the opportunity to try. Um, it would take emotional labor to understand, like, oh, this person isn't lazy. All this other stuff is going on. Um, but calling someone lazy, that's easy. And they don't have to feel feelings of like, oh my gosh, maybe, some things in life are not in, people's control. Um, that that's like an anxiety inducing thought. And so people get discriminated against because other people don't want to believe what's going on. Um, Last example is when someone gets hurt. Um, where this person may have been like warning people like, hey, this is going to happen, I'm really worried about it. And people don't want to believe them because they don't want to believe something like that could happen. And then all of a sudden, after it happens, all of a sudden, like now they believe what happened. And sometimes they don't. um, but, if there's a lot of evidence, they're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I should have listened. I should have paid attention. I'm so sorry. Um, I wish there's something I could have done. And the reality is that, there's a lot that could have been done to prevent that. And, it's really not an apology. Um, it's really like none of that is sincere because they only engaged in that emotional work when they were forced to do it. And up until that moment, they were forcing other people, especially the people who were hurt, to do that work. The solution is to be able to do emotional labor voluntarily. Also, a big part of that is like recognizing when you don't have the capacity to do emotional labor. If you've had, kind of like an emotional day and you're just like kind of spent, and someone, says something that, is going to take emotional labor to like process, right? And like actually, respond in an appropriate way. The most important thing you can do is just say, hey, I've had like a really tough day and like I'm not in a place to be able to respond. But let's like bring this up another time. And if you can like give a specific time, if that's possible, that would be awesome. And just be like, hey, like I can't do this right now, but let's do it later. And that is like infinitely better than, saying something insensitive because you just don't have the capacity to do that emotional work. That's kind of like an individual solution. I think like another really good solution would to like kind of like have like community groups where people like voluntarily engage in emotional labor, and as a group, right? And so this serves two things. Like one, you're doing it with other people, so it's like a body double thing. Because it's hard to do, like for a lot of people, it's hard to do anything on your own. It just gets added to the to-do list and just gets buried. Emotional labor is not a to-do list item, but practicing emotional labor and like kind of working those muscles and building those skills, that is a to-do list item you can work on. Second purpose would be to just kind of like guide people on like how to do it. Because I mean, there's a lot of people that just like, they just don't know. They've never been taught, a lot of people who like are not in touch with their feelings. It's like, it can feel like how do I say? You're like not sure what the goal is. And so it's really important to like understand like what the goal is and like kind of the path to get there. So yeah, that's it.